challenged the way tens of millions of people around the world think about money. Best known as the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the #1 personal finance book of all time, Robert is an entrepreneur, educator, and investor who has earned an international reputation for financial straight talk and is a passionate advocate for financial education. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Robert Kiyosaki.
Who has not yet read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Good, there's still some customers out there. We'll have some books for sale. Anyway, it's really a pleasure to be here. I love you guys, you're the best. I love talking to groups like you, and especially Ignite, simply because we're kind of in the same business. I meet tonight with my partners. We drill oil wells, and we drilled about 40 more wells last year in the Bakken in North Dakota. We have wells in Oklahoma and Texas and Louisiana. So I'm in the energy business. So with that, and the reason energy is important, especially what you guys do, there's many levels to energy, is there is the production side. So I invest in production. I also invest in transportation. I own oil pipelines, but then there's also delivery for the customer side, which is the gas stations. I don't do that. So where you and I are similar is that we're in the transportation side of it. So it's always nice to speak to you about energy, simply because energy is what civilization runs on. If you do not deliver energy, civilization dies. So that's why you're in a very important industry for the growth of this country. And I am very concerned about my country, the United States of America, because we're in very bad shape right now. And what we need are more people like you. One of the reasons I wrote this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is very simply because I could sense the entitlement mentality taking over the American dream. Wow. And the trouble with the entitlement mentality is this. I'm not a Republican. I'm definitely not a Democrat. And I believe in God, but I'm not very religious. So if I say anything to offend anybody, it's not intentional, it's just like me. But anyway, my concern is, as I could see it coming over the years, the American dream was replaced by the entitlement mentality. And the entitlement mentality is, you owe me a living. You make money, you owe me a living. Where the American dream was, it's not that you would be rich, but your child might get rich. So people came to America in droves for centuries, a couple of centuries now, before the American dream. You could come here and maybe you didn't get rich, but your child would get rich, or your children's children. But now the American dream is dead. I talk to people now, and how many people are concerned that your children may not have as good a life as you? And that is a major concern. So what happens instead, the so-called, I don't like to take sides and all this, but so many people believe if you give people money, you'll solve the problem. And again, I believe in God, but I'm not very religious. I support a person's right to choose to believe in a certain religion or not believe in religion at all. But when I was in Sunday school, I was always taught you teach a person to fish, you don't give them fish. around me or against them, is that the way you get elected is by promising people to give them fish. And now our country's in the toilet. We're in very serious, I think we're already in a depression. Depends on how you measure it. So anyway, with that, that's why I'm glad you guys are here, because I'm talking to people who are at least learning to fish. Learning to take control of your lives. Not expecting somebody to take care of you. So the problem with the entitlement mentality is that the more you give them, the more they want to be given. If you give them $10, they want $100. Today in America, I hate to tell you this, but you'll make more money by not working. I study a lot of financial documents and all this. Today in America, if you stop working and you have your unwed mother with 2 kids, you can make $40,000 a year not working and not pay tax. At the same time, those who are working, so that's about $25 an hour. At the same time, those that are working are making $7.25 an hour, and they want to, what's wrong with this country? So anyway, that's why I'm always happy to come and speak to groups like you, because if I was speaking to a Democratic Congress or the teachers union, I'd be strung up, There would be another crucifixion. It couldn't be a Jewish guy, it'd be a Japanese guy. Anyway, I'm glad I'm here and all this stuff. For those that haven't read this book, it's the true story of my 2 dads. My real dad was the poor dad. He was the head of education for the state of Hawaii. Very good man, tall for Japanese, at 6'4". I'm the shortest male in my family. And we're fourth generation Japanese American. And I say that because that means I don't speak Japanese. Because every so often I'm in a book signing and all that. People go, "Hiya, so yo." I know sushi, that's about all. And my poor dad was a great guy, he was, they taught me, my mom and dad taught me a very important word, service. To be of service to your country. And so when my dad was teaching, my mom was a nurse, and even though they were busy with raising 4 kids and all this, in a little town called Hilo, Hawaii, a very small town, my mom volunteered for the Red Cross, and my dad volunteered for civil defense. So they're always into public service, and so it was a part of our family. And then when President Kennedy came out with the Peace Corps, both my mom and dad resigned from their positions and became Peace Corps volunteers for 2 years to serve people. So we grew up in that environment in our family, and I would say the years the family was in Peace Corps, happiest years of my life. We had no money, but they were happy years, because we felt we were of service. So I'd love to come to talk to you guys because your job is to be of service also. We're in a great transition of a great country. And depending on what you and I do, depends on which way this country goes. We're in trouble, financially. So anyway, that's the story of my poor dad. He's a great guy. Like I said, he graduated from university in less than 2 years. Straight A student. In his family of 6 kids, when he grew up, 6 of them, 3 became valedictorians. So they're very, very academically smart people. So he graduated from university in 2 years, went on to Stanford, University of Chicago, Northwestern. So when I was in school, my poor dad was the head of education. But as they say, the cobbler's kids, there's no shoes. In my case, the superintendent of education's son had no brains. And I kept flunking out of school. And it wasn't that I was stupid, I just didn't understand what they were doing. I raised my hand when I was 9 years old, and I said, "Hey, when am I going to learn about money?" How many people are ever, I said, I just want to know, why are the rich rich? say, well, you should stay in school. And I said, that's, you know. And the reason I know she was lying to me was because my family spent all their lives in school. They're all, you know, like 4 PhDs, 3 valedictorians, master's degrees, all school teachers, all pro. You know, so every time the teacher says, I'm just 9 years old, I'm like, hey, something's missing. Why don't we have financial education in school? I don't want to work for money. I just want to find out what the rich do that I'm not doing. What are the rich doing my mom and dad are not doing? And the teacher couldn't say, she just stay in school. Yeah, great. So with that, I mean, how many people have kids who ask kind of really obvious questions? Yeah, why am I doing this? And I did graduate from school, and I flunked out of high school twice because I can't write. And so this book here was on a New York Times bestseller list for nearly 7 years. And they said the same thing to me, you can't write! I said, yeah, but I can sell. But anyway, the reason I got 2 F's in high school is not that I couldn't write. The teacher didn't like what I was writing.
Right.
It's called censorship.
Yep.
I mean, you have to say what other people want you to say. And that's not my cup of tea. I thought we had freedom of speech. But as you know, we don't. Our press is censored, publications are censored. It's a very dangerous time in America today. But anyway, that's the story of my poor dad's side. And I did graduate I went to a very good school. I had 2 congressional nominations, one to U.S. Naval Academy at Annapolis and U.S. Merchant Marine Academy at Kings Point, New York. And I took New York. And the reason I'm in oil is because my major was oil. So when I graduated from Kings Point in New York with a Bachelor of Science degree, it stands for BS. What ended that? It should have been B, oil. You know. But when I graduated in 1969, I understood oil. And so I drove tankers all around the Pacific for Standard Oil of California. And so I drove from San Francisco to Hawaii to Haiti to Alaska and back. That was my route. And I understood the oil industry. So that's why today I have oil wells. I realized I was on the wrong side. I should be drilling, not driving. You know? So it was good. But I didn't learn much about money. I just learned about oil. Anyway, so in 1969, the Vietnam War was still on, and although I was draft exempt, and the reason I'm draft exempt from Vietnam is very simple because of one word, oil. If you're in energy, you're draft exempt. Energy is the most vital, what Ignite is about is the most vital resource for the economy, energy. So I was draft exempt, but then they drafted my kid brother, and I felt kind of bad about that. I had to look at my own value system. You know, what are my values? And my mom and dad were of service to their country, you know, via the Peace Corps. So naturally I joined the Marine Corps. I hate to say this, but my mom and dad wanted to save people. I like shooting people. Hey, you guys know, if you're sane, you don't join the Marine Corps. I think there's whack jobs in the world over there. So I joined the Marine Corps. I went from making about $4,000 a month as a tanker driver, oil tanker driver, to making $200 a month as a Marine second lieutenant. And it was tough, but there are more important things than money. To be of service is more important. So I went from San Francisco, where Standard Oil was. I went down to Pensacola, Florida, spent 2 years there training. Best experience of my life. I loved flight school. I hated school and loved flight school. Because flight school was real. You know, you studied in the morning, you flew in the afternoon. And if you couldn't fly, you were dead. I liked that. It kind of inspires you to study in the morning. And so after 2 years of Pensacola, I get my wings and straight to Pendleton, California. And there my helicopter was attached with 18 rockets, 6 machine guns, a crew of 3. And it's the same aircraft, different configuration. The aircraft was really heavy, and it was like ready to fly again, and flying out of the sky. Out. So we had to be quicker, like all this. And we had practice, guys were shooting at us and all this stuff. It was exciting. I loved it. So after 1 year at Camp Pendleton, straight to Vietnam. And for me, it was a great experience. I loved it. There was a band of brothers. I was there with real people, not the phonies. We quickly found out who could fly, who could shoot, who was BS. And we got tighter and tighter and tighter. So when I returned from Vietnam in 1972, I entered the real world again, and I hated it. It was so phony. Don't say this, don't say that. I said, I fought for you, I should have shot you. As you can tell, being a Marine was big. I did fight for my country. A lot of guys running this country today did not fight. And that really disturbs me. Yeah. How the Republicans could make that McCain and Kerry look like cowards was beyond me. That is beyond me. So there's something sick inside our country, and that's why I love to come to speak to you guys. On the other side of it is, I had my rich dad. He was my best friend's father. And he started teaching me about money at the age of 9. And the way he taught me was very simply playing Monopoly. So I worked for my rich dad for free. And one of the hardest things I think you'll find in the Ignite business is people do not understand working for free. They are so conditioned by the school system to get paid for what they do. So when you talk to them about the Ignite business, well, we don't get paid. Well, you don't get paid until you do something, idiot. How many have talked to a bunch of idiots lately? That's why I love coming to speak to you guys. If you read this book here, you'll see I have to work for free. Today, I still work for free. I'm not going to be a slave monkey for money. You know? So what you're doing is you're training yourself, and you're training those that you lead out of the wilderness to not be slaves to money. See, if you go to school, you become a slave to money. You sell your soul for money. That's the worst thing you can do. Many people work for people they don't like, work at jobs they don't like, doing jobs that are criminal and immoral. And that's what the problem with not having financial education is. And it's not in the state. So I love to come to speak to you guys. Same business for energy, same mission though. God set people free. This idea of getting paid to do nothing, which is the entitlement mentality, is killing this country. It's killing us. Does that make sense, you guys? I read this book here, Business of the 21st Century. I wrote this just for this business. This is my manifesto. my way of supporting the industry. I'm not in the network marketing industry. I do not take sides. I will come and I'll speak to different people. But I wrote this book to support others going free. But you have to change the thinking. Like I said, I have to work for free, starting at age 9. I'm a rich man because I work for free. I don't need a paycheck. I don't want a paycheck. I don't want a government pension plan. Just leave me alone. So that's why I wrote this book. That's why I come and I'll speak for you guys. I encourage you to move on. Because we're in a critical state. Critical state. When we pay people more not to work, we're in trouble. When we have government officials who don't do anything, but they get paid for doing favors. We have sold the soul of our country, and it starts in our school systems. And that's why when you say to your child, go to school so you can get a high-paying job, so you can work hard for me. I don't have a job. I don't want a job. I've never wanted a job. I just want to own the company. So the reason why Ignite is good is that they're teaching you to be entrepreneurs, training you to not work for money. The only way you get there is by performing, by doing, by setting other people free. I wrote this book here. I just came out with it. It's called Why A Students Work for C Students and B Students Work for the Government. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with working for the government as long as it's not me working for it. And I was never an A student. I was never an A stands for academic. I am a C student, a capitalist. And if this was the American Federation of Teachers, I'd be thrown out today. Because socialism and communism begins in our school systems. And I'm not saying it's bad or good. I don't take sides. As I say in here, every coin has 3 sides. Heads, tails, and the edge. And ladies and gentlemen, intelligence is found on the edge. So I can see the benefit of helping people if they need help. I cannot see the benefit of helping somebody who can do something for themselves. And I can see the thing that we do need government controls of some things, but stay out of my life. You know what I mean? So that's why I wrote this book. The worst thing about schools teach you to be greedy. You know, when you look at the whole thing about going to school, there's only one A student and one F student. I was always in the middle. My business plan for getting out of school was always sit next to the smartest girl. And I'd sit there and take tests. In school, that's called cheating. In real life, it's called cooperation. So the cooperation is you guys are this. You have to cooperate to succeed. In the Ignite business, if you're not cooperative, you do not succeed. So one of the most important things that you are learning inside this business is how to help other people make it with you. If you think you're going to be the Lone Ranger, you're not going to make it. You have to learn to help other people. But in schools, you would be cheating. And one of the hardest things for you to break is the idea that you have to work for free and you have to help others. Again, that is not taught in school. So that's why I speak. You know, my very first book written in 1992 was was called, If You Want to Be Rich and Happy, Don't Go to School. And then I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I'm still after it. Because I'm going to talk a little bit about this. To be successful in the real world is opposite of being successful in school.
Yeah.
You see, in school, all you have to do is memorize the right answer.
No innovation.
And if you make no mistakes, you're smart.
Yeah.
You know how stupid that is? How in the world do you learn to do anything if you don't make mistakes? You know, look at a little baby learning to walk. You know, they sit down there and they stand up and they wobble and they fall. And then they cry and all this stuff. Wobble, fall down. They fall down. In the school system, they would flunk the kid. You failed, you fell down. And all the child is trying to do is stand up. So the reason I know about this, in my family of academics, mostly A students, they're flat broke. They have to have a government pension to survive, but they think they're smart because they made no mistakes. And they think guys like me are greedy because I have more money than they do. Does that make sense, you guys here? And they think the way you help this country is by giving losers like them money so they don't make more mistakes. The only way you're going to be successful in this Ignite business is make mistakes. And the more mistakes you make, the richer you're going to become. And the reason I know that is I have screwed up so many times. In the Marine Corps, when we're learning to fly every single day, they would either kill our engine or do something to simulate mistakes, simulate mistakes, simulate mistakes. We would fly around, engine off, down, boom, boom. Coming up. I still remember the first time I had to learn how to fire a machine gun at human beings, you know. They weren't real human beings. Looked like human beings. So I'm flying up, this is the Ken Pelham, I roll my Huey up, hitting the switches, okay, rockets, machine guns, gunners ready, going right, boom, coming in. And I'm flying in, and my instructor has a plastic baseball bat. And I'm like, okay, here we are, rolling in, 1,500 off the perch, coming in. And we're dropping like high speed, we've got rockets, guns, machine guns, Fuji. And my instructor gets this baseball bat and starts hitting it. I had to pull off. He says, you're dead. So what do you mean I'm dead? He says, this baseball bat simulates machine gun rounds hitting aircraft. You took an eye off the target. You killed us all. Take the aircraft around, pop it back up in the sky, rolling in. This time I'm on rockets, and he's hitting me. We have a chance of surviving now. Does that make sense to you guys? So I made a mistake. I got distracted. Rather than flunk me, it says take it around. Back into it. That's how the military trains us.
Yep.
In school, I'd be flunked.
Yep.
Does that make sense, you guys here? I'm alive today, very simply because an instructor cared enough. Take a baseball bat and whack me around the head. So I'm not saying to do this, but you should whack some of those people you're talking to. But anyway, that's the difference between A students and C students. A students don't make mistakes. They screw up this country.
Yeah.
They know all the right answers. They can't do a damn thing. It's up to you guys. So in finishing up some of my thoughts today, I love learning. I never stop learning. I just hate school. You know, I don't want to be an employee. Go to school to get a job. I didn't want a job. I don't want a job. No, you have to have a job. I don't want a job. So I'll show you a couple of things here. The word education. So I became a student. When I came back from Vietnam, I became a student of why did I hate school? Why I love learning. The word education comes from the word educe, Latin. Educe means to draw out, not put in. And our schools just want to put stuff into you. Like I remember sitting at the academy in New York. I'm in my 3rd year of calculus. I cheated for the first 2 years. I mean, it was, calculus 3 was so hard I couldn't even cheat at it. It was so hard. But I managed. But they put stuff in. Education is to pull out. And so the thing I'm saying to you all today is this, is that inside each and every one of us is a poor person. There's a poor person inside me. You know, I don't want to go to work, you know. I wish someone would just give me some money, you know. You know, I'm over there comparing Charmin toilet paper with brand X, you know, which is cheaper, you know, all this stuff. How people do that? Try and save a little money. Poor people always try and save money. That's what it is. You've got to put your potential in making money. But poor people, you know, what happens is, oh, you know, I'm making $5,000 a month, so I'm going to try to live, you know, Susie Orman says, live below your means. I never live below my means. You know, God gave you a brain and a spirit. You know, I don't have one Ferrari, I have 2 Ferraris.
Way to go, dude.
I may be Japanese, but I don't look good in Toyotas. So I have a great wife. She says, why do you need 2 Ferraris? I said, because I have a small ego. I said, why not? You know, I have a 599, it's a V12, it's gorgeous.
Wow.
And then I have a 458 V8, totally different cars. So you have to. But this is the difference. With my wife, she says, how are you going to pay for that car? So I just want to make more money. And other poor people try to live below their means. So they never enjoy the good stuff of life. You're in a business with Ignite that you can expand your means. So if you work harder, you know, talk to more people, you can keep expanding. So I want you to have, you know, it's not a free. You like Lexuses, knock yourself out. You know, have a good life. My sister-in-law, she's all thrilled. She has a Lexus. I go. I said, I'm Japanese. I don't want to go to Lexus either. My ego does not fit. Why do you have a convertible? It's my head's that big. So when I talk to poor people, they think saving money and living below your means is smart. To me, it's stupid. God gave you a spirit and a will and a brain and a body and emotions to have what you want. guys are in the right business at the right time. Energy is civilization. If you guys don't bring more energy to wherever you bring it to, civilization dies. And being an oil man, I promise you this, you're like WTI, West Texas Intermediate, that's my Bible. Every time the price of oil goes up, I get happy. Here it goes, at the gas pump with that bastard. Thank you, Jesus. And then there is the middle class. And inside of me is a middle class person too. I want a steady paycheck. I want benefits. I want somebody to take care of me. You know? And I have that guy inside of me too. I battle him. So, I don't. And the last person inside everybody, and this is all of us have this, inside of each and every one of us, is a rich person.
Yeah.
And I suspect that many of you are here, you may not be rich yet. That's the American dream. That's what we've lost. You know, it's not that you're going to be rich, but you're going to teach your kids to be rich. You're going to change the way they think. How many people want that for your kids? You know? What you do is very, very courageous, because I'll say this much. Like I said, when I came back from Vietnam, and I wanted to study what education is, it's not putting stuff in, it's pulling you out. So when I studied education, it was in 1904, a man named John D. Rockefeller founded the Standard Oil, the guys I worked for a few months. The purpose of education was to take poor people and turn them into middle class. That's all. Go to school and get a job. Work hard. Save money. Buy a house that's an asset. Get out of debt. Invest for the long term in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. It's the worst thing you can possibly do. It worked from 1970. But in 1971, Nixon took us off the gold standard, it all changed. But today, financial planners are still telling you we have asset allocation. So you're going to have some stocks, some assets, some equities, and you're going to have some bonds. Today, my generation, the baby boomer, we're going to get wiped out. You know why? Because financial planners put us into asset allocations full of bonds. And the average person doesn't know what that means. If in 2014 you're in bonds, you're screwed. Because it's now a bear market in bonds. Everybody, what does that mean, bear market in bonds? I thought the stock market almost went out. It doesn't, idiot. The way the rich get rich is the market goes up, it crashes, they take all the losers' money and they buy it and go back up again. That's the game. Take from the poor middle class. But now, go to school, get out of debt. It's really stupid. Okay? So what you're in today, you cannot become rich going to school. I promise you that, because most of the people wind up working for the rich. You know, there's this gap between the rich and the middle class today. It's huge. It's huge. And guess what? It's getting bigger. Why? Because every time you save money, you know what happens? The value of money drops because the Fed is printing. They printed $1 trillion last year. Why would you save money? On top of that, when you save money, you pay higher taxes. How stupid is that? So if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and what I stand for, I said, you got to start your own businesses. The only way you can beat taxation is not be an employee. But if not, go to school. Get a job. So the problem with going to school is you don't get to go from here to here. And I think your most important job in Ignite is to reignite the American dream. The trouble is, people have gone to entitlement mentality. That's your hardest job. Does that make sense, guys?
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I come and I speak and all this stuff. Because America is still the greatest country on earth, but we're losing it. And I went to Vietnam twice, 1966, 1971. I did not fight for communism. I fought for capitalism. So the last thing, my time's almost up here, and I'm honored to be speaking to you all. But this was my second book. This was my second book here. It's called The Cash Flow Quadrant. How many people read this book? For those who haven't, please read it, because if you're going to school, our schools program you to get a job or become a doctor or a lawyer, self-employed. These guys are John Waynes. They have to be the smart guys. I'm a doctor and a lawyer. I hire guys like you. But what they don't tell you in school is that why this is very stupid is because these guys pay 50% of their income in taxes. That's stupid. If you save money, you spend 50%, you'll pay 50% in tax. If you have a 401k, it's 50%. They screw the employees. You're sending your kid to school to get a job, to work hard, to save money, to get out of debt, to invest in the stock market. Your kid becomes a taxpayer. That's why they can't get ahead today. It's not an accident. If you become a doctor or a lawyer, 60% of your money goes to taxes. With Obamacare, it's now 72% in California. So when Obama, again, I'm not a Republican Democrat, I just watch the tax laws. When Obama says he's going to tax the rich, he didn't say tax the rich, he said I'm taxed the high income people. High income people, these people here who work for money. I don't have a job. See, my rich dad trained me to work for free. You come to my office, I don't have an office. I own the building. Okay, I want you to understand how opposite it is. I don't want a job. I want to work for free. Why? I don't pay tax. See, if you're smart, which you are for being here, the moment you shift over to this side, business owner and investor side, your taxes on this side drop to 20%. Okay?
Yep.
And if you understand my world, you have that possibility. You stay in this business, keep your education. I'm not against education, I just don't like brainwashing people. I don't like the idea that they say to some people, well, you make no mistakes, so you're smart, and you're an idiot because you made so many mistakes. Well, the A student's not going to make any money, but the C student makes a lot of mistakes, going to make a lot more money. And the more mistakes you guys make, the richer you're going to get. It's opposite. But if you're so afraid what these idiots think of you, oh, I have a job, why would I join Unite? Because you're an idiot, that's why. I want you to know, when people say, say, well, this is unpatriotic. Well, to hell with you. America was founded on a thing called the Boston Tea Party. I'm not a Tea Party guy, but it was a revolt against taxes. Okay? Then in 1943, an act called the Current Tax Payment Act was passed at the height of World War II, and they said it's now patriotic to pay tax. 1943 was the first time we were taxed. But now we think it's patriotic, so they just tax the heck out of us. That's stupid. You know, it's bankrupting this country. It's bankrupting the poor. It's bankrupting the middle class. I'm getting richer, but that's not my problem. Does that make any sense, guys? You have an opportunity. Not only to make yourself richer, but to educate other people. I ask you to join me in educating other people. If you go to school and you get a high-paying job, all you're going to do is pay more taxes. And every time, I'm not Republican or Democrat, every time they print more money, which they have to print more money, these guys will pay the taxes. And they'll get away with it because the schools have no financial education. So in closing with this is where you guys sit today. I faithfully say to you, the reason A students like my relatives fail is because they think memorizing right answers is smart. They also think making no mistakes is smart. And I faithfully say to you, it's stupid. You cannot learn by not making mistakes. It is impossible. So with that, thank you all.